Good morning, Patriots.
Good morning.
Of all the
and
days.
Michael.
Oh, yeah, and Michael. Good morning, Michael.
Yeah, that Michael guy.
Of all the days, of all the times, of all the streams, of all the videos, I think we all know what's going to happen in this episode. Last Saturday,
the world changed.
The world changed forever. Last Saturday, you could be the biggest skeptic in the world. You could be the biggest agnostic in the world. You could be the biggest doubter in the world. Millimeters.
Mm-hmm.
Literal millimeters. Changed the course of not just our country, but the world. This is a screenshot of Dr. Steve Turley's video over the failed assassination attempt on Saturday. I'm going to put the link in the chat box here for you guys. It's a phenomenal video. There's a lot to cover. There's a lot we could cover. But today, we are going to focus on what really matters. Because if you were a doubter, that doubt's gone. Because for better or for worse, with all of Trump's flaws, God told the world, I'm in charge. Now, I'm not done with Donald Trump yet. So we're trying not to get emotional here, but
yeah, right.
Yeah, I wanted to just get intro with that, guys. But yeah, take it away, guys. I want to get your thoughts. We're gonna keep it focused on God's divine influence that day, and we're gonna wrap it back to Scripture. But I just want to get y'all's thoughts out there.
Go, Joel.
Oh, you're gonna have me go again?
Yes,
First
sir.
again, Michael?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, who am I to argue with such a wide sage with such a magnificent beard? So,
Thank you. Yeah.
I noticed just about every podcast you're on, someone comments about your beard. So let's get this out of the way. No, when we were in Chicago, my wife and I, in a hotel room, and I saw it come up on the feed that someone had taken a shot at Donald Trump. And I'm like, I'm not going to believe the first thing I see on the internet. I'm not going to turn around and tell my wife someone shot Donald Trump. I had to look at 4 or 5 different reports, different videos. I went to the mainstream ones I wouldn't go to normally, whatever, just to wrap my head around what we all thought was going to happen. It was the next logical step that someone was going to take a shot at him. And so I wasn't surprised. But yes, I did think that there is something around Donald Trump that I've never seen quite before. Ben and I were talking beforehand that I've been hearing a lot of people saying, well, this isn't the American way. This isn't the American way. I'm sorry. This is the America I grew up in. This is the America I learned. In my lifetime, John, my childhood, I was too young to remember John F. Kennedy being shot. But I definitely remember Robert Kennedy being shot, Martin Luther King being shot and killed, both of them being shot and killed, George Wallace being shot and paralyzed. Twice Gerald Ford was shot at. One time the gun jammed, and that you can say that was God's providence, but why in the world would God be saving Gerald Ford? Gerald Ford was not nearly as significant as Trump. And another time someone, by one of Charles Manson's followers, by the way. So that was bizarre. My whole childhood was bizarre like this. And then as I got into adulthood, Ronald Reagan was shot. So this to me harkens back to the America I knew, the very dysfunctional America I grew up in. And then we've had this peaceful holiday for 40 years, 40 plus years. It's hard to me believe that Reagan was shot 43 years ago. Um, but, and now evil doesn't take a holiday. God has had his hand on America the whole time. There was nothing, like I said, God didn't decide suddenly to intervene with Donald Trump. He's had his hand the whole time. And so, but there is definitely something about Donald Trump that's a little bit different. And if you've caught my view on Donald Trump throughout these, whenever we've talked about him, he is God's chosen leader. When Ben and I were talking, I compared him to the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in Ghostbusters. Okay, because of, and this is from a Christian perspective, from an evangelical Christian perspective, our leadership has been so bad and so feckless. That's a word you only use when talking about leadership, but so cowardly and so craven and so compromising. And I know a lot of leaders don't like the fact that Christians are Christian nationalists or that like Donald Trump, but they have only themselves to look at in the mirror. And they have chosen the destructor, and the destructor is Donald Trump. Okay. And he is laying bare their cowardice and their fecklessness. He's providing leadership. And the thing about Donald Trump, he is not a politician. He's an American. He doesn't hide anything. What you see is what you get. He's completely honest. He's crude. He's not smooth. He's bombastic, but he's the real deal. And boy, if that's not something America needs. And he believes in America, the idea of America, and he is leading America. He was leading as president, and he will lead again based on the ideals of America. He's unapologetic about it. He's straightforward about it. And that's what we need. And I'm following that guy. I'm not following anybody else. I'm following that guy. The first time I voted for him because I thought he's going to be a terrible president, but he's not. We might as well destroy everything now, get it over with, so we can start rebuilding as fast as possible. Second time I voted for him, I'm like, okay, he's a good president. I'm going to vote for him. So I reluctantly the first time, with conviction the second time. Now I'm enthusiastically voting for him. I'm following that guy because he does have leadership. He's honest. And yes, I would say God is with him. They can't touch him. And they're throwing everything at him, including bullets. And I agree with you. God is saying, no, not at this time. But, and Ben, as I was talking to before, you need to get back to me because I got a couple challenges on this. I'm even going to challenge myself in saying that. So once Michael's
Thank you,
done,
Joel.
you get back to me or whenever you think is right.
My turn.
Hit it, Mike.
Well, Saturday this is one of those moments where you will always remember where you were. For those paying attention to what's going on in the world, you will remember where you were when you heard the news that an assassination attempt occurred. What's fascinating is now I imagine the Google and all the tech giants are like, oh wait, that word assassinate. That's one of the words we were following, and it was like a trigger warning. And now everybody's talking about that word. It's like, okay, we have to. People are getting deleted, et cetera, and possibly for just talking about things that they weren't talking about last week. But now, right, they're clamping down on, et cetera. It's fascinating, the world we live in, because we've never lived in a world like this with technology this way. But there's one of the things that I heard proposed. This was like Pastor Doug Wilson was proposing this to Elon Musk. He was just saying it, not personally to Elon Musk. He's saying what Elon Musk needs to do now is create a group or an initiative on X for the citizen investigation. Right when Kennedy was shot, there was like 1-2 cameras, a couple cameras trained on him. When Donald Trump was shot, there were thousands of cameras trained on him from all angles. And we already don't believe the official narrative that's going to come out, right? The official report, we already don't believe that. So why wait for that? Doug Wilson saying, do it now. Have the citizen investigation begin now. Everybody who was filming, everybody has any detail, thousands of people that were there documenting it, upload it to X and upvote the things that make the most sense. And, so we live in an incredible era where, it is, the more details we find out, the more miraculous the event was, right? The closer we get to the details, and that picture that you showed, Ben, of how close it was. Well, that picture there, that iconic picture, like that looks, the picture that, this one here, first of all, Doug was commenting on this as well. He's like, that looks so staged. And Doug goes, it was. Doug Wilson goes, that was absolutely staged, but not by a human.
Right.
Right. This was orchestrated, that shot, that photo right there. And then it's not just how close it was a millisecond head tilt leading up to it.
Right.
So it's
The
not
timing.
just the spatial proximity, but it's the motion. And as I'm meditating on that, bullet hit his ear, would have taken out the right lobe if it was if he hadn't tilted his head. And so I envision it literally an angel just pressing on his head a little bit, turning it a little bit, right? Just turning it at the right time. And a second bullet came right in its path. The shooter was locked on and fired two in rapid succession. So it wasn't just him tilting away at that moment. It was him tilting away from the line of fire in the last second, right? So these things we all chalk up to coincidence. Oh my gosh. But when you combine it with I forget who it was that said there's only two answers to how this happened. Either it was absolute complicity at the highest levels of the government and the Secret Service. It was either absolute, utter complicity. We are going to make sure this guy dies, right? The deep state. It's either that, or it's the highest level of incompetence in the places where you're not supposed to have incompetence. What is the purpose of the Secret Service? Like you guys are saying, actually, Joel, you were saying we had 46 presidents, and 10 of them, right? That's almost 20%. 10 of them have either been assassinated, suffered assassination attempts, either running for re-election or after they're out of office, etc. Like 10, almost 20% of the presidents of the United States have experienced something like this. This isn't anomalous. What's anomalous is we had 40 years without something like this.
Right.
And so God being in control had everyone's attention. Now he's got everybody's attention. And those people that watch just, because, Trump's, even if they're on the fence, or like, he's certainly entertaining, they witnessed something
Right.
that changed them, right? Wait. They witnessed what felt like a dramatically scripted event that there's no way it could have happened, right? There's no way it could have been scripted by humans, but that's how God works, right? He gets these unmistakable events that change everybody. Everybody was watching, and now it's undeniable. And now he's stronger than ever, right? And the one thing that stood out to me the most is we got the just the kind of the confirmation that it's Trump's instincts that make him God's man, right? He's a sinner, he's brash, but it's his instincts. And what were his instincts? Anybody else's instincts are, get me out of here. No, his instincts were, they can't take me down. They can't do it. Within seconds, he's on his feet addressing the people, right? He's like, nobody in that crowd fled. And I was just now likening it to, not to don't call me blasphemous, but there were a bunch of people watching Jesus get baptized, right? There was a specific crowd that was live, right? They were there in person watching Jesus get baptized. And he comes up out of the water and the heavens open and God speaks, right? And it's like these people don't realize what they came out for. And they have this unique experience. It was special for that crowd that was present. And this was special for those people that were there. God rest his soul, the fire chief who died, who took a bullet, and the two people. But the crowd that was there experienced something spiritual, right? They were in the presence of God acting, right, miraculously to get the world's attention. So we live in very exciting times.
There's
That's
been
an old, excuse me, Ben, that's an old curse, Michael. May you be blessed to live in interesting times. Because when times are interesting, there's a lot, life's not very good.
there has been so much stuff that has come out since Saturday. Some great, some very disturbing. And I could easily go down a rabbit hole on so many things. But I think Dr. Turley hit it right on the nail. When I watched this video, I broke down crying because I didn't make this connection in the moment.
The one called Believe, he has the title on it. The thumbnail says Believe. Yeah.
His whole thing was the only reason why he's alive is because of you, the audience. All of your prayers throughout the years was that armor. Protect
our leaders. Every time you've prayed that, you just saw your prayers answered, right? My prayers saved that man, right?
And so, even if from devout believers to people who are not, I can't tell you how many videos, images, testimonies I have seen and heard of people saying, this guy took a bullet for me. This guy, with all of his flaws, he has been attacked constantly. And they just tried taking him out. And yet, he's still here. Yeah. I can't keep going and not put my ballot in for him now. I have to vote for him. I have to, because there's no one else. And the other major point is it's not just America on the line. It's the world. It's Western civilization on the line. And it's like we're not putting all of this on one flawed human and expecting perfection. No, we're putting this on someone who's willing to sacrifice himself to start this massive wave that can't be held back anymore. After Trump, then what? Point is, I'm not scared anymore. I'm not worried. I mean, obviously we all have faith in Christ, but it's like for people who aren't devout believers, that fear of the unknown, that fear of, well, what if this, what if that? It's like that fear is gone now because God made it clear to the whole world, I'm in charge, not you. And I want Trump here for a little bit longer because he is enacting my plan. And there's nothing else I can say that can justify the majesty of what we saw Saturday. So there you go.
Well, Michael, before you can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
I did tell Ben that I was just throw out of things. I agree that God did intervene and he wants Trump there. I also believe that God intervened when, and this, I'm not doing any comparisons, please understand, when Adolf Hitler's aide put the briefcase under the big table in the assassinate and Valkyrie plot that saved Adolf Hitler's life. That was the time Teddy Roosevelt was shot and he had a flask in his pocket that the bullet hit. Teddy Roosevelt, the father of modern progressivism, which has brought us to the point we are now. God has his plans. Even with Gerald Ford, the gun jammed. Gerald Ford was not an inconsequential president. Okay. For better or for worse, God has Donald Trump here, but
Right.
it is comforting. And like you said, Ben, I agree with you. I'm comforted because there's the forces of evil are obviously lined up against this man. And Michael, you're right. It's hard to reach any other conclusion than that there was some level of complicity on this. It's just you're naive at best if you think that this just happened.
Yeah.
Nobody is that incompetent without some intent. I mean, obviously, if you looked at those agents, the most incompetent agents were put on that detail. But there's the challenge. What God is intervening, but that doesn't mean what's ahead of us is not going to be rough. We're not exempt as
Right.
modern Americans from the spiritual battle and the actual physical battle that up until this point in history, up until a very recent point in history, was the norm for human life and for Christians. So I do totally agree that this was God's intervention, but I'm not taking it to mean anything other than God's in control of everything.
Right.
So
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. And
Amen.
obviously the RNC was amazing. And there's a lot of things we could talk about. And there's a lot of fire built up in me, that righteous anger against people in charge that I firmly believe knew exactly what they were doing, because the evidence points to it's beyond incompetence. It's to someone made a decision for something to happen, but that thing didn't happen.
And I don't think they're done yet. I don't think they're necessarily done yet. I don't think we're out of the woods on this particular issue.
Well, right now, the other side is busy eating each other, because is the current president going to drop out? Is he not? Who's going to take his place? We don't know. The left
like he
is completely falling apart. They don't know what to do with this.
What's interesting is, so I listened to Tucker's speech, whichever day that was at the RNC, and his one of his main points is like, oh, well, now we know who's going to be the next president. Like, the election is over, right? When you have a man whose life is targeted and he gets up and gives hope, literally, it's like, oh, okay, that's the kind of leader that all those fence sitters have been waiting for, right? It's like, oh, he's not just a showman. He actually, he should be sitting on a golf course, right? He literally should have his grandchildren running around him in his.
He doesn't need this.
This is like he's literally sacrificing his reputation and his billions, right? He's a billionaire going up against billionaires, right? He's literally, people say, oh, he's one of the elites. It's like he's a rebel among the elites, right? He's exposing those elites. He's on the inside in a certain sense, and he's sacrificing that luxury of fading into history, into the sunset, as I've accomplished, I've been a great man. No, he is the real deal, and that's what was proven, that with that, his instincts. But then what it looks like, projecting will happen right at this time. Like, the Democrats are infighting. We don't even know who Donald Trump's opponent's going to be. That's the crazy thing, right? Usually it's the incumbent, and we don't know who his challenger is going to be. No, now it's the challenger who is locked in, and we don't even know who's going to be on the Democrat ticket.
See, normally it would pass to the VP, but we don't know if Biden will even endorse the VP. We don't know who the DNC will choose.
Hey, are you guys up for the Democratic convention coming up? You think that might be must-see TV?
Yeah, I'll still watch it. It'll be pathetic.
And go back, and Michael, you're not even old enough to know this. I still vaguely remember the 1968 Democratic convention, watching it on TV with my parents. We could have a repeat. And if you don't know what that is, go Google that. And that might be what we're in for, or worse. So
let me just say one thing. It's taken 60 plus years, and we still don't know the truth behind Kennedy's assassination, right? Here we are last week we had an assassination attempt. And when Trump wins on November 5th, we're going to find out, right? It took 60 years. We still don't know what happened to Kennedy, but we're going to find out from the inside what actually happened in this assassination attempt, because he's going to be, he survived it and is going to have his finger on the levers of power. And we are going to find out all things, right? Things continue. So,
There's just so many things that we could cover, but I figured a great way to end our masculinity focus. I mean, guys, what could be more masculine than this? I mean, let's be honest.
Leadership is masculine.
Like I said, I'm following that guy. That guy's man card is full.
Well, the thing is, this is reported. There's been enough cases of this for it to be a thing that has been studied. That when people suffer near death, assassination attempts, they have spiritual rebirth. Right? They go through a transformation. Like everything I was doing up to that moment, I was on track doing this. And now I have a new outlook, like, oh, I must be right or not, right? Whether their hearts are in the right place or not, they will have this sense of, oh, God has protected me and preserved me for a reason, and they take it more seriously.
That was shown in Trump's speech last night.
I hadn't seen it yet. I wasn't able to watch it.
It's an hour and a half long, but he makes it very clear in the very beginning. He makes it very clear, I'm not supposed to be here.
Yep.
I'm only here because of God.
It was remarkably humble and subdued for Donald Trump. Yeah.
A changed man.
I didn't last through the whole thing. I wish he would have.
The second half of it, he goes back to his classic self. Yes. But the first half of it, it's a man who is extremely.
So he didn't rewrite the script. He just added to the beginning of it.
Well, most of it was improvised like he normally does. But the first half of it, there was a very, very touching tribute to the retired fire chief who did lose his life. But you saw a different side of Trump, a different version of him, a man who made it very clear. The only reason I'm here is because of God. Yeah. There's no doubt.
That was a great speech for the first half. And then when he started, but when he got into like things like immigration and like that, he started to get his old fired up, combative self. But hey, that's Donald Trump, and that's what the situation calls for.
Right.
But I'm also going to add, keep praying. I don't think
we're not done yet.
I don't think we're done with this yet. They're going to try again.
Yeah.
That's who they are. That's who he's up against.
Yeah. It'll be exponentially more difficult now, which is, again, God
if he hires private security, yes.
Well, I can't imagine he doesn't now, right? I can't imagine. That's not in the budget. I bet immediately. It's like, okay, there'll be none of this relying on our government provided protections because they're not out to protect.
Clearly.
Let's make sure we have DEI women, Secret Service women that you're supposed to throw your body in front of him. But if you come up to this on him, it's like, wait, we have to have an equal number of women in this job. Right. It's like, no, you don't.
Yeah. I mean, good for her. By the way, good for her to throw herself in front of him. But,
by the way, real quick, can we just give a quick shout out to the photographer? Joe Rogan on his podcast, he talked about this recently. And his producer pulled up another angle of someone who saw the photographers, and just like everyone else who didn't flee, these photographers were right in the center of it, capturing everything. These are guys with black things in their hands. That you're taking a big risk when you're around Secret Service with a black thing in your hand running around. Mm-hmm. But I think whoever the photographer is, hats off to you, man. You captured the most iconic photo in recent memory.
I was thinking about, we're out of time, but I got to throw this. I was thinking about that photographer, and they take thousands and thousands of pictures, right? They're taking thousands. So he immediately isolated that group of pictures, and I bet when his eyes fell upon that moment, because he's taking pictures constantly, when he fell on that, it was probably a spiritual moment for him. He's like, that's the one. It probably stood out from all these pictures, like, whoa, is that true? Did I really capture that? I get to be the guy who took the iconic picture of history, right? This guy, forget this guy. He comes in here all the time.
I know. Good to see you, Elisha.
His only comment, the only comment he
I know.
ever makes is, Michael, cut your hair. That's the only comment that guy ever makes. And you guys egg him on by drawing.
Michael, I think it is biblical. I think it's
Thank
majestic.
you.
So, you know,
And of
keep
course,
going,
I'm
buddy.
jealous. So whatever. I'm just bitter.
All right.
All right, Patriots,
We're
have a
way
wonderful
over
day.
time
We're
today.
way over time.
God is
Keep praying,
clearly
guys.
in
Keep praying.
charge.
Did you hear my wife? What did you say, babe? Shave and cut my hair.
Okay. You have it
Love
from
you
the
guys.
word of God through your wife.
Love